Okay. Okay. Well, thank you very much for joining us today. My name is Ryan Masterson with Green Hat Web Solutions, and we are going to talk about Shopify and WooCommerce today. I am going to share my screen here. And so was anyone here available in our last meeting? We had about 3 weeks ago on the introduction to WooCommerce and Shopify and e-commerce tools. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Well, great. So we are doing these e-commerce series in conjunction with Denver Economic Development and Opportunity and the Commons on Champa. And Michael Bevis is here with the Denver Economic Development and Opportunity. And Michael, would you like to say hi and introduce yourself?
Sure. Yep. As Ryan mentioned, my name is Michael Bevis. I oversee innovation and entrepreneurship for the city of Denver, and I work with Carrie, who's on this call with us as well. And we offer some advisory and support services along with what Green Hat Solutions does with workshops out of the Commons on Champa, which is a free co-working space that the city owns and cooperates with a group called Downtown Denver Partnership. I happen to be an entrepreneur that runs an e-commerce site, so I'm looking forward to being here.
Thank you very much, Michael. And Carrie, would you like to introduce yourself and the Commons on Champa?
Yeah, hi everyone. My name is Carrie Singer, and I work for the city, Denver Economic Development and Opportunity. And the Commons on Champa was formed 5 years ago to really be that public space where entrepreneurs have access to free business advising, various programs. Of course, now everything is virtual, and it's just a very resource-rich environment. So I'll be sure to post some information about that in the chat. And then Michael and I work for, again, Denver Economic Development and Opportunity, and Denver has a lot of resources locally for entrepreneurs. So again, be sure to connect with us after the call if you'd like to learn more. The other thing I'll mention for those of you that are out of state is I would just encourage you to consult your local economic development office or perhaps your state government, as there may be resources in place to support you and they can help navigate. So we're so excited to be co-hosting this with Green Hat Web Solutions. And with that, I'll turn it back over to you, Ryan.
Thank you very much. And my other guest here today is Ken Miller. He is my partner at Green Hat Web Solutions. We co-founded this business together, and he is our IT director. And Ken will be giving you an introduction to WordPress and WooCommerce. You can say hi, Ken.
Hello.
All right. So this is a nice, small, intimate environment here where we are very willing to take any questions. So we have experts on the call here right now available to help answer your questions. This is an opportunity for you to learn something and for you to interact with us. We do these as a way to just give back to the community. It's great to meet new people. And it honestly too, it helps keep us on top of our own game as we continue to adjust to new challenges, share information, answer hard questions. So this is a great opportunity for you to ask questions. So please feel free to ask questions. This is very interactive. It's a small group here today. So we are really happy to answer any questions. So I know here we have some guests right now who are using WordPress. We have some guests who are using Shopify. And so please don't hesitate to ask anything at all. All right, so to start off with here, in our last webinar here, we talked about what are the differences between WordPress plus WooCommerce and Shopify. And we also even looked at some other e-commerce platforms, such as like Facebook or even Amazon, if you're selling stuff on Amazon. And if you have your own, if you want like your own website, then WordPress or Shopify are great e-commerce tools for you. If you don't need your own website, if you don't need your own branding, then something like Etsy or Amazon may be great tools, or even Facebook shops. So this webinar here, though, is focused on the people, though, who do want to have one of their own website, and they want to control their branding. And so what we're looking at are the two options of WordPress and Shopify. And there are some differences on why you might choose one or the other. With WordPress, you basically have a lot of control. You actually set up your own hosting. You set up your own environment, and then you can control a lot of different things. You can make it much bigger, the website much bigger beyond just e-commerce. Other advantages of WordPress is that there is a huge community, a WordPress developer community. So you have many, many plugins available. You also can scale and modify the website, meaning that you can just kind of, with WordPress especially, WordPress is really good if you have access to a developer or if you are a developer, because you can really scale that, you can modify it, you have a lot of control to do whatever you'd like to do. You can also choose your own merchant service provider, such as like PayPal and Square, Authorize.net. Those are the most popular ones. And then you can have your custom domain and full control of your theme and full control of branding. With Shopify, you can also have a custom domain, and you can also control the theme and branding. So those two things are similar. The differences, though, between Shopify and WordPress is that Shopify, you don't really have to deal with the hosting situation. You don't really have to deal with like setting up your website. They do that all for you in the cloud. And so as a result of that, it's much easier to get started with Shopify. You can start a website, and in just minutes have your site live and ready to go, where you can start uploading products, and it's very quick. With the downside, though, of that is that you don't have access to all the backend code and all the backend configurations that you do in WordPress. And what that means is that if you want to really kind of, if you for whatever reason, if you have a business model where you need to kind of expand your website to do more things than just e-commerce, like you want to have like user portals, like user accounts, and maybe you want to just kind of do something beyond a typical blog or typical news, but make it even more interactive or something like that. You might have more options to do that in WordPress. However, if you just need a simple store with like a simple blog, you can have a simple blog on Shopify, and or some simple pages to sell your products and display that, and you're looking for an easy start, Shopify might be a good way to go for that. Does anyone have any questions so far about the difference between WordPress and WooCommerce and Shopify? Okay, so just to kind of look at some of the prices, just to give you a comparison. With WordPress, again, as I mentioned, you have to take control of your own hosting environment. You have to set that up. And there are very cheap solutions such as GoDaddy, and there are more expensive solutions where they actually give you high performance, higher security, and is tailored toward WordPress. Using a very cheap solution on GoDaddy or Bluehost is it would be slow, and I mean it would work, but it would be cheap, but it'd be kind of slow. We recommend at least going with a WP hosting environment such as WP Engine, or all of a sudden I'm blanking on the other name that we typically use. Pagely. What's the other one? The cheaper one than WP Engine?
So there's one called SiteGround.
Yeah, SiteGround.
Really
SiteGround. Yeah. SiteGround is a good one. So SiteGround or WP Engine are good solutions because they are tailored just for WordPress sites. And so the performance is much better than just a cheap economy hosting thing. And the security is better. And they also usually offer free assistance if your site ever does become under attack or have some malicious code installed on it, because they're just they're focused on this WordPress experience. So WP Engine is probably one of like the best ones for a, well, let's say small, medium business to get started on WordPress. It's a great tool. And usually just this $25 option here, $25 per month is a great, or will get you enough. It's a very fast WordPress site. It's tailored to WordPress. So good hosting, good customer service. It's $25 a month. And that's something you'd have to pay for the hosting of it. Now for Shopify, the price actually structure is very similar. Again, for the Shopify site, you're not dealing with hosting because they're hosting it for you. It's in the cloud, and their basic plan starts at $29 a month. And they also include information here on their transaction rates. If you go with something like WordPress, then you get your own merchant service provider, so you can take credit card transactions. And there may be some other costs involved with WordPress if you need some performance plugins or anything like that. Ken, would you like to talk anything more about maybe extra costs that might be involved with the WordPress site? With Shopify, it's pretty simple, pretty straightforward because it's an all-in-one solution. But with WordPress, there can be more plugins that you might need or something.
Yeah, actually, I guess with both of them, there's plugins or extensions that you can purchase to, add functionality to your site.
Okay.
When we talk about WooCommerce, I can show some examples of that.
Great. And with Shopify here, does that $29 a month, does that include the domain name too? Michael, you might know that one. Do you know if
it doesn't include the domain name?
Okay, it doesn't include the domain. Okay, so
right.
The domain name is typically a low cost expense, maybe like $20 a year that you can.
I think mine's $9.99 a year.
Okay, yeah, or even $9.99. Yes, that you can you get through a domain manager. So yeah, so like I think that, so if you looking at like total cost to get set up with like a custom site of Shopify, your total expenses might be, your domain name for $10, $20 a year, the Shopify account for $30 a month, $29. And then if you needed some extra functionality, there could be some extra expenses in the plugins, but I think that's, if you're just getting started and you need like a simple solution, that might be it for you. So both costs are kind of similar here. So. Okay, and I am actually now going to turn it over to Ken. Ken is going to give us a walkthrough of WordPress. Is there any questions? Does anyone have any comments right now? Comments or questions on which one you might choose?
Looks like Brandon asked a question on the chat.
Okay, yes, thank you. Yeah, go ahead. What was that question?
I was asking, would the basic package for Shopify be good for me since I'm just now beginning?
So what is the basic package sufficient for you if you're just beginning? Is that what your question was?
Correct.
Yes. Yeah. I think that if you're just beginning and you don't have any special needs as a e-commerce owner right now or business owner for that, then yes, I think that the basic is just fine. It's a great tool. It's a great option to get started with. And
would I need a domain?
That's a good question. So yes, you should get a domain because it will. That's a great question. One advantage of having a custom domain is that then it looks a little bit more professional. Like if your business was, for example, Michael's business here, he has a business where he sells supplies for pets and like clothes, I believe. And so he has a custom domain that allows him to make his website look even more professional in that. But I believe you could also, if you wanted to just kind of get started without a custom domain, that also could be acceptable. So the domain is actually such a low cost, being like $10, $20 a year, that I would recommend it.
Okay.
Okay, and Ken, are you able to share your screen now? Or I think you can take over here.
Yeah, you seeing this?
Yes, we are. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, so what I want to do here is just kind of show what WooCommerce is. Just kind of show you what it looks like if you're a store administrator, what it looks like on the front end. And here I have actually a test website that we can use for this. And one thing I should say too is that this is, I'm kind of starting from the point that you already are familiar with WordPress. So if you're not familiar, then you would definitely want to look into taking a class or something on how WordPress works. So here's a website where I added WooCommerce. And what happens when you do that, you'll see there's two links in the menu. One is WooCommerce, and then below it is products. In here is, I'm going to start with some settings to show you. So basic WooCommerce comes with a lot of settings. And you can, Ryan mentioned earlier about adding plugins. One advantage of WooCommerce is there are a lot of plugins available to help you customize your website. But right now, I just want to show some basics of what comes with the kind of the default WooCommerce. You'll see when you click on settings here, you've got all these tabs at the top. This first screen is like some general settings like your store address, where you're selling to. But one of the big ones you'll want to use right away is shipping. So you click on the shipping tab here. And WooCommerce comes with ability to add what they call shipping zones. So for example, I set up a shipping zone just for the state of Colorado, where you can have what I call a local pickup fee or a flat rate fee. So it kind of lets you change what your shipping costs are based on where the customer is located. And just for this example, I'm just kind of using a simple flat rate. I think I made it like $4.99 for a product. But there are plugins available where you can have it connect directly to the post service, United States Postal Service, or UPS or FedEx. And then you could have people, just like you do on like Amazon.com or any other website where shipping is automatically generated based on the location. But just for this example, I just wanted to show just some basics. And then in addition to shipping, I wanted to show payments. Basically, and if you're selling physical products that you're shipping, and then obviously for selling anything, you're going to be taking payments. So those are kind of the two where I wanted to show, what kind of it looks like on the back end, how the settings work. So for my example, I decided to use Square. You'll see this is down here, and you'll see this tab up here for Square. And let me show. If you go to the plugins in WordPress, so you'll see here's some plugins I have on this test website. So I have WooCommerce right here, and then I added this plugin called WooCommerce Square. And this is actually a free plugin that's on the WordPress.org site. If you're familiar with WordPress plugins, then this will look familiar to you. So this is a free plugin that I installed on the site. And then you have to connect it to your Square account. So for this example, it's just using a test account with Square, but if it was a live site, you know, you would obviously have your credentials put in here to connect to it. So let me show what this looks like on the front end. So here's the shop page, and I have this one product in here. And you'll see it looks pretty typical for an e-commerce site. But let me just do a quick add to cart. Okay, so I added this product to my cart, and you'll see that the URL is now /cart. So this is actually a page in WordPress, and it's dynamically showing kind of the checkout process for a customer. You'll see here the local pickup and flat rate are two options. So for my shipping settings for Colorado, I set it to these two options, and let's say I want the flat rate as a customer. I also have tax working on here, so it's going to add some tax for me. And when I proceed to the checkout page, you'll see it's basically kind of like your standard billing fields, right? So you have like your name, address, here's the order information, and then at the bottom you'll see this payment. This is coming from Square. So one thing that's good about using a payment service like Square is you're not actually saving credit card information. What's happening is this form, just by putting on the plugin and connecting it to Square, is that it's connecting your website to the Square service. And then when someone goes here and puts in their credit card information, it'll go directly to Square, and it kind of bypasses your own website. So you're not actually collecting credit card numbers from customers, and you don't need to worry about any regulations for security or keeping people's credit card numbers. Instead, you're letting Square just deal with that for you.
Hey, Ken.
Yeah.
I think that this is a really good thing to mention. I'm glad you talked about this. So for all e-commerce owners out there, you really want to avoid taking people's credit cards. There are just risks with that. And so by using like a merchant service provider like this, it is a great way to avoid that burden, that responsibility yourself, and you never actually get their credit card information. It happens in the back end. So I'm glad you mentioned that.
Okay, and I didn't want to take a lot of time to fill out all this order information, but so earlier I actually submitted a test purchase, and so I wanted to come back over here now to the WooCommerce admin. Under WooCommerce, you'll see orders. And here's my order that I submitted a couple hours ago. So you'll see the status of this processing. This means it was a new order that came in. You can do a quick view to kind of give you some order details, or you can click on this and go to another page that actually opens the order. You'll see the status of it, when it was. You'll see the customer information, what they ordered. Square has a way to do a refund. If a customer contacted you and said they wanted to get a refund, you could do it through here. They have some notes on the side. You can save yourself some notes about the order of the customer, or you can actually add a note here that's meant to send to the customer. So, and all of this is mostly part of WooCommerce itself. So I didn't need to add, other than adding Square, I didn't need to add any extra plugins to get any of this to work. Does anyone have any questions so far about orders or how the WooCommerce settings work?
Ken, I have a question. Is in WooCommerce, in this section where you're at here, is there a feature where you can add the shipping, to print shipping labels or link it to your, if you have a UPS account or anything like that, to print shipping labels?
So for something like that, I would recommend using a plugin. There are a lot of options out there. One common one is called ShipStation, which actually works with more than just WooCommerce, but you can get plugins that add in functionality for like printing off invoices, printing shipping labels, connecting to the different shipping providers to get actual costs. It's extremely flexible. It's one of the advantages to using WooCommerce, is that you can really customize it and get it to work the way you want it to work for you or your business.
Is there a way to track the shipping?
So they don't have tracking directly in WooCommerce, in the default WooCommerce, I don't believe. But that's another plugin you can get to give you that information.
So Ken,
what I would say is if you just go to Google and just search WooCommerce plugins, search for WooCommerce, track shipping, you'll find a lot of information and a lot of options.
And I'll show folks how I set it up in my Shopify account so they can see it.
Ken, if you were going to switch from Square to some other merchant service provider, how easy is that to do?
Okay, so it really is just signing up with the provider. And then, as long as you get one that works with WordPress or with WooCommerce, they'll direct you to what plugin to use, and it's just get signed up, put your information into the settings, and it should connect.
Excellent.
I also wanted to show the products tab. So products are kind of like a post or a page in WordPress. It's just another type of content that gets added to WordPress. But it has a lot more to it than a typical blog post. You'll see, here's my example patio chair. You edit it similar how you would edit a blog post. You see at the top here is the main description. So, you can edit that as if you were adding content for a blog post. There's categories and tags you can use, featured images, or you could have a product gallery. You'll see here in the middle here is all the information about the product itself, things like taxes. You can track inventory. You might have a product that has different shipping, like there's the shipping that I meant to show earlier was kind of a general shipping, but you could also have shipping details related to each product. There's some more advanced things here like attributes and variations that we can talk about later if we have time.
And Ken, for shipping, since you're talking about that here, how do you determine the cost of shipping, or can a business owner set up different prices to charge for different?
Yeah, you can have flat rates depending on the customer location. You can set up a plugin that will connect to UPS, and then it dynamically uses the customer's address, to determine the cost. You can you can connect it to UPS and have it generate their cost, but then add on, like, let's say you want to add on $5 a product or something like that, so that, you know, you're covering other shipping fees for yourself. I mean, it really is flexible enough to do whatever you want to do for shipping costs.
That's great.
I also wanted to talk a little bit about how to find a theme for your WooCommerce site. And so if you're familiar with WordPress, you know that all WordPress sites have what's called a theme, and this mostly controls how the front end looks. I kind of wanted to point out a few things you want to look for if you're searching or when you're trying to choose what theme to use. And here's an example. I found this theme called Bookshop on WooCommerce.com. So WooCommerce.com actually has a lot of plugins for sale and a lot of themes for sale. And this is one that I just thought looked good for an example. It's called Bookshop. You'll see that this is basically the home page where it's showing shop by category. And then it's showing all these individual products. Basically, when you're looking at what theme to choose, I would suggest you look at the homepage design. Look at what a category looks like. So for example, they have categories here. You'll see the URL up here is product category / education. So this is a category they called education for their books. You'll want to look at what a single product looks like. And then you'll want to see if they have examples for what the cart page looks like, what the checkout page looks like. You know, these are all kind of in addition to general WordPress pages in a theme. Does anyone have any questions about how themes work?
Do you have to use every theme? Can you mix themes?
It's very difficult to mix themes. I think technically it's possible, but I wouldn't recommend it. So when you look for a theme, it is possible with WordPress to customize your theme. So you can get it to look how you want, but I would suggest starting out with something that's really close to what you want and then try to modify it from there. I think I'm out of time. So I don't know, does anyone have any other WooCommerce questions I can get into before we go to Michael? I know it's a lot of information. I tried to just kind of touch on a lot of the basic points.
One thing, can you show, like, in the pages section of WordPress where you see a person can like modify, or where like the checkout page physically lives within WordPress?
Yeah, so if you go to pages, you'll see here, there's a page called cart, page called checkout, and then there's a little dash here that says cart page, checkout page, my account page, shop page. These are all pages that when you first add the WooCommerce plugin to your site, it will generate these for you. And then if you try to edit, like let's say example, I just try to edit the checkout page. It's actually, I don't really have any extra content on this page. All it is a shortcode. You'll see here. This is basically WooCommerce. When I added the plugin, it generated this page called checkout. and it automatically put in the short code WooCommerce _checkout. And then when you try to view the page, if you have anything in your, or I'm sorry, I guess on the checkout page, it'll be dynamically showing just the checkout like process for you. So you don't have to control any of that content. Yeah, I guess that's it.
All right, thank you very much, Ken. Michael will now give us a presentation on Shopify. And again, please feel free to ask Michael questions as we go.
Sure. Ryan, are you going to give me control so I can share my screen?
I believe actually you can just do it yourself if you see that green button down in the Zoom.
Got it.
Yeah. Okay, yes. Yeah, we see it. Thank you.
Okay. So let me, so this is my back end of my Shopify account. I also have my WooCommerce site up. So you can see, based on Ken's presentation, this is what my WooCommerce background looks like. You see the plugins, you receive customer comments, all these different things in here. What looks very similar, works very similarly to Shopify. Shopify, maybe it's a little prettier from a picture standpoint, and in my opinion, a little bit more user-friendly for non-tech savvy individuals like myself. I am not tech savvy. I built my WooCommerce site myself. Probably came close to giving myself a brain aneurysm trying to figure it out because I'm not techie, but once it was up and running, it kind of works, and it works well. I recently, probably about 6, 7 months ago, switched to a Shopify account from a WooCommerce site account, primarily because of ease and convenience. So with WooCommerce, I was you have the hosting aspect of it, which typically you have to find an additional service for that. You have to work with those services to get the necessary features that you need on there, like security certificates and things like that. So when you see your website and it's got the HTTPS, that usually means that it's a secure site, so people can feel more confident with inputting their credit cards and those kinds of things. Those, they have different expiration dates and billing cycles and things like that. So it was becoming a little bit of a headache for me. So that's why I switched to the Shopify platform. The layout, the format, the functionality of it on the back end is very similar to WooCommerce. And again, I feel like it's a little more friendly to people who are not tech savvy. You can get analysis, you can do all that kind of stuff. You can see your orders in here. And one of the things, so I'll just show you in here, because we were talking about it with Ken's example, is you can do the same kind of thing. You click a bunch of radial buttons, which is the equivalent of kind of doing a plugin on WooCommerce to say, I want these shipping services, or I want UPS or USPS or DHL or whatever you want to use as options, so that customers, so like my platform, I have multiple shipping options, so the customers can kind of pick and choose what they want to pay for. So a USPS might be cheaper, but it might take 2 or 3 days longer, and the customer doesn't want that. They want to pay the higher rate for a UPS delivery, and so they can make that choice themselves. It does give you the tracking information here, so you can click on that to see that information. The order itself, it tells you very clearly which one they ordered, the size, the pattern. In my particular case, I can print the labels quickly from this site, and I really appreciated that, because when I was on WooCommerce, again, I didn't take the time to look to see if there was a plugin or something that I could have used, but I was going out of my WooCommerce site and going directly into my shipping services site, in this case, UPS, and printing labels manually myself. Very time consuming and not very efficient. The other thing that I've noticed on Shopify is that you get, depending on the package that you have on Shopify. So I have the most basic package, but even on the most basic package, I automatically get a discount, a volume discount, because I'm using a plugin through Shopify as a Shopify customer. So to put it into perspective, so UPS as an example, if I just go to UPS as an individual business owner, or I walk into a UPS store to ship a product, my product comes in a box. It weighs just under 2 pounds. It costs, if I just walked in off the street, it cost me about $13 to mail that package basically anywhere in the United States. On a Shopify platform, I can do that for under $9 because of the discounted rate that I automatically get there. So the shipping, Ken, what was the name of the shipping partner you mentioned for the WooCommerce site?
There's one called ShipStation.
Yeah. So ShipStation, there's dozens of these types of companies out there. You can sign up as a small business customer and you get a discount through them. So I would encourage you to do that regardless of which site you're using, because obviously it makes it cheaper for you. It makes it cheaper for the customer if you're going to pass the shipping costs on to your customers. The other thing that I like about, well, and again, both sites offer this. But again, for ease of use, from my perspective, I have a ton of customers internationally, and the shipping cost to ship my product internationally on a one-off is just, it's not feasible. And I recently signed a contract with DHL Express, which specializes in international shipments for small businesses, small package kind of thing. And it brought the price way, way down. And they have an easy plugin that just works with Shopify automatically. So that now becomes an option right on the checkout page for that. There's also really easy to set up taxes. So especially like in the United States, you can use a platform like TaxJar or some other type of option in there, and it'll calculate the taxes that should be collected on the sale of that item based on the zip code of the delivery. And that keeps record for you so that you can pay your taxes, your sales taxes on a quarterly basis. So those kinds of things make it super easy and functional for me. The product page, the setup, all of that kind of stuff is very similar to what you see on WooCommerce. One of the features that I use a lot, and this is, if you're not tech savvy and or you're not really visually kind of creative, what I'll call visually creative, the most important thing for you to think about, especially with an e-commerce site, is your user experience on the platform. Because if the customer is interested in your product because you reach them through a social media ad or some kind of email campaign or something to drive them to your website in the first place, the experience needs to be rewarding for the customer and easy. And if your website is clunky or the setup is not right, or they can't find the checkout button, or they can't find the version of the product they want easily, they're not going to stick around, and you're not going to complete that sales process. So you might want to consider using a company like Green Hat as an example, or other companies that can help you get your website started to begin with. And then a lot of it you can operate yourself, even if you're not tech savvy or user friendly, visually from that standpoint. And so some of the features that I would use on a regular basis, or I might update my products, I take good pictures. I put my pictures of my products up there. I change the pricing. I change a pattern in my particular case. But one of the other things I do is discounts. So as a business owner, you're typically striking deals with, other business owners or other people that might help generate traffic to your site. And as an incentive to do that, you might offer them a discount code. And you don't want to have to call your web developer every time you want to just throw a 20% discount code on there for 2 weeks or whatever the case is, as how long you run this campaign. And this is a super easy function, and it works very similarly in WooCommerce. So the experience on this has been pretty easy. You simply, I'm going to close this window down just for a minute so you can see the whole thing, but you can go in here and you can simply just create a discount. You type the name of the discount. So here I just gave it an acronym. This acronym happens to stand for a local business in Denver that's going to put our products in their newsletter, a dog breeder, a puppy training service, whatever it is. And then that way it helps me track where the sales are coming from. So over here, you can see that, this particular dog trainer referred 16 customers to me recently. This ad that was placed in a national publication for dogs generated, this many sales. So it's a good way for me to understand what's working and what's not working across my efforts. So this is a feature that I use pretty frequently within my site. I have multiple payment options for customers when they check out, so that they can use PayPal, they can use a Square, they can use their credit card if they want, and they can use Google Pay, different things like that. So again, it's just about the user experience and making it as easy as possible for your customer to experience your brand. The themes, the setups, those kinds of things are pretty similar. You have some different flexibility. I think ultimately what it comes down to, especially from more of the developer types, is their preference to what they can and can't do with the site. And my understanding is that a lot of developers kind of lean more towards WooCommerce because I think there's a little bit more flexibility and customization aspects to it. Shopify has been a very pleasant transition for me in that process. And so when you're doing, hundreds of products of sales a week, you just want to be able to click a button and ship something out. I don't want to have to go into multiple platforms. And I'm not saying that WooCommerce doesn't do that. I didn't have the time or the bandwidth to spend, time digging in there around my platform. The other thing I like about Shopify from an ease of use standpoint is I get one bill a month. I'm not paying a bill for a hosting site. I'm not paying a bill once a quarter or once a year for a security certificate or some other features that I might have done there. Other challenges that I had on my WooCommerce site over the years was some of the plugins. So the plugins consistently, just like apps on your phone, right? They have to get updated on a pretty regular basis. And sometimes the plugins, the updates don't work properly, or when the update happens, it disables another feature on another site. So you have to have a little bit of patience and kind of understanding of where to look for that. I have noticed that in the past year or so, that challenge has seemed to been alleviated a little bit. So maybe some of that has been cleaned up and fixed. But in the initial year or two that I had my site, I felt like just about daily I had to go in there and run some kind of update on plugins or widgets that were added there. So that's kind of my 2 cents on it. Are there questions I can answer for anybody? Or Ken, Ryan, anything you want to add about my Shopify experience here?
I have just a quick question. Are any of these plugins or extensions that you added, do you pay for any of those, or were all of these just options in Shopify?
I have a pretty basic version of everything, so I don't pay for much of anything. I pay for my Shopify, subscription, and I pay a small fee to Shopify for transactions, basically, that depending on how the customer pays. And one of the things that's interesting and has been a little bit of a learning curve, and it took me and my accountant some time to figure out, was depending on how the customer pays, Shopify will pay out every 2 to 3 days, something like that, and they just automatic transfer into my bank account. And it shows up differently than if somebody pays on PayPal, as an example, or Square. I have to initiate that transfer then from that platform to my bank account separately. So just that was a little bit of a learning curve. But there are, Ken, to your point, some other added features and things like that you can add in there that would be an additional fee for it. But my experience so far has been it's been kind of rolled into my Shopify billing.
Okay, yeah, sounds good.
Thank you, Michael. Does anyone else have any questions about either WooCommerce or Shopify that here's your chance to ask some really knowledgeable people on the subject.
While people might be thinking about questions, I'm gonna, I'll just share my my website, the Shopify version of my website, so that you can kind of see what it looks like here. So again, all these like banners, you can add, you can update, you can change all this language, but my site's pretty simple. It's a scroll down kind of one page model. So pretty simple. Got some demos of the product. You just click shop now and you can jump in there, pick your pattern, pick your size, check out. Pretty simple.
Very cool. You know, one thing too that I'll mention that you can do both with Shopify and WooCommerce is you can create special wholesale pricing, or for dealers who maybe you want to give them just like a flat discount on all their stuff. That's something that you could do.
Yeah, there's a lot of features I noticed in there that you can do. Again, like control the, if they use a code as an example, they get it automatically defaults to a set price or a percentage of the price, free shipping, not free shipping, flat rate shipping, all that kind of stuff. Calculate the shipping based on the zip codes, those kinds of things. So it's pretty easy to use from that standpoint. If you can figure out how to create an attachment to go along with your email that you're about to send out, you can pretty much use either of these two platforms pretty well.
Is there anything that either of you guys noticed in the other's presentation that you thought that your platform couldn't do as well? Or is everything that we talked about today something that it can be done both in WooCommerce and in Shopify?
I think the answer is yes. They can. Anything you want to do pretty much can be done in either platform. It's some of it to me is just about what's built in and what's not. And so for me, like the biggest one was shipping. And I'm certain that you can do whatever I like to do in WooCommerce. I just didn't take the time to figure out how to do it. And Shopify kind of basically dumped it in my lap and said, this is all you have to do. And was pretty simple.
Yeah, I would say that you probably want some kind of shipping plugin with WooCommerce. And that sounds like a nice feature that Shopify just doesn't bother you with that.
Great. All right. Are there any other questions? Oh, Brandon has his hand up. Go ahead, Brandon.
Okay. I understand the online store part, but quick question about the Facebook market. Would you recommend just making a page for that niche as far as? Well, let me say this, because I have my Facebook set up as a personal Facebook, and I actually advertise my products in the market. Would you rather do that, or would you rather make a brand page and advertise the products like that? If that makes sense. I don't know if I'm explaining it well.
Brandon, is your question whether or not to drive your Facebook marketplace back to your e-commerce website and how to set that up? Or is it more about marketing the Facebook site?
Yeah, more marketing of Facebook.
Yeah, I mean, from my experience of just working with a lot of businesses that do a lot of e-commerce and things like that, Facebook can be a fantastic tool for you to do that. If you're going to keep it separate from, driving people back to a centralized site like an e-commerce platform or something like that, it just means that it's more for you to manage. There could be some potential benefits to doing it that way because you're building kind of a culture and traction that's specific to like Facebook users. While a lot of people have Facebook accounts, I wouldn't necessarily call them Facebook users. But if you're, engaging with an audience that's very familiar with that platform and there's some potential benefit to keeping it separate so that you can manage that differently. If you're going to use Facebook or a Facebook marketplace to drive people back to your e-commerce site, there's a lot of tools in different ways that you kind of build the coding so that you know where the traffic is coming from, because that's critical, right? I mean, you can get dozens of sales on your site in a given day, but if you don't know where they're coming from, you don't know what's working, and you want to know what's working so you can spend more energy and resources towards making more of that happen, right? So that's probably my 2 cents on that thought.
Yeah, that kind of answers my question. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you, Brandon. Okay, well, we will go ahead then and bring this webinar to a close. If you do have some questions, you're actually welcome to email us and we can help you out with that. My email is ryan@greenhatwebs.com. Greenhatwebs, plural, WEBS.com. And thank you very much for joining us. Michael, Ken, thank you very much for sharing your expertise here today. We really appreciate that. And
I'm just going to put in there, Ryan, I put my email address in there, and I'm happy to help anybody on the call, just general business questions too. It sounds like a lot of you are on the earlier stage, and happy to help with, general business stuff and get you connected to other resources that you might need outside of what we covered in this workshop.
yes, that's great. Thank you very much, Michael. I put in my email address there too. So thank you again, everyone, and have a great day. Good luck to you in selling online, making lots of money.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thanks.
Thank you, guys. Very informative. Enjoy your day.
Thank you.
Thank you.